Exciting news in Moncton, shocking news out of St. John, predictable news in Tampa Bay, all that and more. It's Sports QuaranTV. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sports QuaranTV. Chris Dobson, Gerry Green coming at you on a Thursday night. Jerry, we've got a wild show, and we're going to do things a little different tonight. We're not going to start with the QMJHL because there's some huge news coming out of Moncton this weekend, not QMJHL related, but Telus Cup related.
Didn't it put a smile on your face, though?
Loved it.
Moncton Flyers haven't lost a game, I don't know how long. They had a 22-game win streak, which wrapped up a Telus Cup championship versus Magog on Sunday night. And they did so in dramatic
exciting
fashion.
Finish.
Exciting finish. And here it was, Chris, the night before in the semifinals, they were behind and came back and won in overtime to get to the finals. And here they are up against Magog, who come out of the chutes, out shooting Moncton 18-5 in the first period and up 2-0. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, have they run out of gas? Well, no, they come back in the second. They have a lead going into the third, can't hold on. And this is the mental fortitude that I like that John DeCourcy has put into his team there. He's the head coach of the Flyers. And what he told them between periods and said, look, that's gone. We got to start fresh again and let's get back at it. And didn't it take just 40 seconds for Jack Martin, a defenseman in 3-on-3 overtime, which I didn't know was going to happen, Chris, which was exciting right off the hop, comes late to the play, the trailer, and gives Moncton the championship, the first Telus Cup, under 18, AAA midget, major midget, whatever you want to call it, championship, national championship ever. That's exciting news, and that's why we're starting the show with it.
Oh, of course. And, if you look at you talked about the 22-game win streak and what they've done to get there. And, I always kept asking myself, and I always get nervous when I see teams go on these long runs and stretches because I keep saying to myself, yeah, it's going to happen. The loss is coming. You got to prepare yourself. But good on them. Like you said, they put their foot on the gas and they never let up. I did love some of the love that you were seeing on Twitter. Francois Bergevin out of the Tampa Bay Lightning, former Moncton Wildcat goaltending coach. He was excited. He was posting about, because of course his roots and his ties here in Moncton, celebrating and, congratulating the Moncton Flyers on their win. I think it's absolutely great. The city had a lot to be proud of. And, obviously with the first round exit of the Wildcats from a hockey standpoint, everyone in Moncton knew this was their shot to see another championship here. And, the Moncton Flyers delivered on the national stage. And I think that's amazing. You couldn't have asked for a better storyline. The 3-on-3, I'm with you. I didn't realize it was 3-on-3 either when I saw it come out, but you're right. You talk about exciting. I hate seeing a championship decided on 3-on-3 overtime, but hey, it is what it is.
And here it is now, two maritime teams in the last 5 years. If you remember, Jacob Hudson and the Cape Breton West Islanders won the first ever Telus Cup for a maritime team in 2017. And here the Moncton Flyers do it in 2022. And the thing about the Flyers is, Chris, they're always in the hunt. They have a great recruiting process. I think every kid in southeastern New Brunswick wants to play for the Flyers. They have a good feeding system up through Pee Wee and Adam as well. It's working really well. It's very impressive, the wins and the championships this organization puts together. And we tip our hat to the board of directors, the coaches, the players, everybody involved with the Flyers, and what a tremendous season they had. Luke Patterson was considered the MVP. He's the captain. Chris, he had 9 goals and 9 assists for 18 points in 7 games. And Jack Martin was one of the top defensemen. We tip our hat to those young men and all the Flyers who put it on the ice and got a big victory for the Maritimes.
Well said. Let's move on to the QMJHL because shocking news, surprising news. Big news coming out of St. John. After the first round exit of the St. John Sea Dogs, it looked like the Sea Dogs had enough. I'm not sure what the situation was there. Gordy Dwyer was relieved of his duties just 4 weeks before the start of the Memorial Cup. We tried to find online when the last time a coach was dismissed after a first round exit going into the Memorial Cup. We couldn't find one. But the shocking part of the whole thing is not necessarily that Gordy Dwyer was removed, because I'm sure there was a reason behind it. I don't know if it was a Trevor reason. I don't know if it was a Scott McCain or the play. I'm not sure. All I know is that it was weird. But the surprising part was who they announced as the head coach for the Memorial Cup tournament. And that is, of course, AUS legend Gardner McDougall, of course, of the UNB Varsity Reds. And or the UNB Reds, and however you want to run it. Shocking. And look, Gardner's no stranger to winning. He's got one of the most winningest pedigrees as a hockey coach in the history of the game. And, I didn't know that this was even on the table. I didn't know this was in the cards. The Sea Dogs put out a press release saying that Gardner's coming in. It's exclusively for the Mem Cup because he is going back and he'll be behind the bench of the UNB team start of the fall. This is just for him to come on in and give them some structure. Now, I don't know what this means. I don't know how you put a system in place. We were talking a little off camera, and you had suggested like maybe it's a special teams thing, but you're not going to know the team that well. I believe the team has kind of taken a week off after it's lost to kind of just recover, get some rest in them.
Sure.
And then you got to think that Gardner's going to start skating these guys right away because you've only got 3 weeks left here, Jerry, and you're going to want to make sure you are in top shape the minute this tournament kicks off in St. John on the 20th.
All AUS or all actual CIS national university hockey championships are round robins.
Right.
Not necessarily round robins, Chris. I think you lose, you're out. Yeah, that's it. Because that's what UNB did. So he's used to that pressure type and preparing his team for a pressure type of an event, a national event like this. So he has the experience that way. I don't think he's going to try to reinvent the wheel here, Chris. He's got some talented players there. He's going to review the things that they've done on the power play and penalty kill. And it certainly wasn't the penalty kill that hurt them in the first round that have them sitting on the sidelines when they lost to Rimouski. It was about the offense more than it was the defense because they were all low-scoring games. So I don't think he's going to invent the wheel in special teams. I think he's going to show them how to be mentally sharp and physically fit and ready to go and not come out of the chute slowly, because that's certainly nothing you can do in a round-robin event like this. You can't come out of the chute slow. Right. After 38 days, you should be ready to go. And I think he has, again, deals with these type of players. And you say, no, Jerry, he deals with university players. No, he deals with a lot of major junior players that have come from all over the country and want to play at UNB. And they could be captains of all those teams. So he usually has a lot of leadership on his team. He's gonna pick some guys to be leaders, and he wants some guys to step up and be leaders. And I think maybe that's the key thing for them, Chris. They need a leader. And I think Gardner is certainly a guy that can do that.
Could you imagine Gardner McDougall adds a last-minute Memorial Cup ring to his resume?
No, can't imagine that.
Crazy. We've got 2 minutes left in the queue.
Meanwhile, yes, in the other
other series,
you got those other two series. And again, I'm going to harp on it again, Chris. Best of fives. You got Quebec at home and Charlottetown at home to play the first two of a best of five. And you're right behind the eight ball. Sherbrooke is, and also Shawinigan is. Those are going to be the two visitors. Do you agree, disagree? Do you still find it somewhat late in this process now? They're still sticking with the best of five right until the final.
As much as it kills me to say this, I agree with you. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. If you look at how the OHL and the WHL spaced out their playoffs and how they're running, I don't mind your first round being a best of five. I don't love it, but if you're going to pick a round, let that one be the one. But once you get through the first round, and the minute you get into the quarters and the semis, come on. I mean, you're a professional league, best of seven or nothing. Because like you said, if you lose the first two on the road, your back's up against the wall. You've got to it's just the way it works out. I don't know. I hate the best of five. I've never liked it. I just feel bad for those teams that come on in. You're already behind the eight ball and you're stuck.
Currently, Chris, in the other two leagues, which is the WHL and the OHL, who send representatives to the Memorial Cup in St. John this year. Windsor and Flint are battling it out in a semifinal, and Hamilton has a 2-0 lead on North Bay. Meanwhile, in the Western Hockey League, Edmonton has a 2-1 lead on Winnipeg, the Winnipeg Ice, and Kamloops is up on Seattle 2-1. And those are semifinals and then go into finals. So the timing is about right in where the queue is in their process to match up perfectly for all the teams to arrive at the right time.
Either way, it's an exciting time, and we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here in the queue. Let's move on to the NHL, and I apologize. I've got this weird twitch in my eye. I keep rubbing it. But yeah, let's talk about the NHL. I want to start with the Battle of Alberta and how exciting this has been so far. I mean, when this series first said it was going to happen, as excited as I was for it, this is the one I was amped up for. I honestly, in my heart of hearts, wasn't sure how Mike Smith was going to handle this series. I honestly pegged Calgary to come out and win this series. I thought that physically they were going to manhandle Edmonton, but Connor McDavid has proven otherwise. I mean, the kid's an absolute freak. Look at what Evander Kane's been doing in the series as well.
Yeah, what a
Talk
pickup,
about a
eh?
low risk, high reward pickup that was for Kenny Holland. And I said that to you on the show. Remember, we talked about it. And I said, a guy like Evander Kane's he's going to be looking for a second chance at life here, or a third chance, if you would. But overall, $750,000 contract, league minimum, prorated, of course. But overall, worst case scenario, he craps the bed, you put him in the seats. Oh, yeah, better yet, let's just put him on a line with Connor McDavid and all that skill. And now he's just crushing hat tricks left, right, and center in the playoffs.
So you can't tell me they don't have secondary scoring anymore.
Correct.
Because here, I'm going to go, Zach Hyman didn't have a great regular season, but he certainly has stepped up in the postseason. And how about Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has been scoring here lately? And that's what they're going to need. They're going to need that balance. But Chris, this whole series is driving me crazy with the crazy goaltending that's going on. First, it was in the first game where I thought I woke up. I fell asleep before the end of the game one, and I thought I woke up into the 80s because I woke up, it was 7-6 in the third period, ended up 9-6. But neither goaltender, to me, looks like they can take their team to the promised land. Here it was the other night, some awful, a giveaway by Markstrom in the first minute allows Edmonton to score, and then the tying goal from 132 feet on Smith. It's just blowing my mind. But Markstrom, I looked up the numbers, Chris, 19 goals in 4 games of this Battle of Alberta. He's at 4.75 goals against average. That's all I need to say about this.
Tell me you didn't see that coming when the series started. Markstrom had the upper hand going into it.
I would have thought it would have been the other way around, but I'll give my credit to Smith. But Smith has a shelf life. He can't carry on this for too long, and you can see his lapse of concentration every now and then. So
which is why
it's still not over yet. It's not over yet.
You're right, it's not. But Edmonton, you're right about Mike Smith. He does have a shelf life, and if Edmonton wants to give him a little more time, they've got to put the nail in the coffin here tomorrow night. But I will say that I liked, before we move on to the other series, is that I liked Mike Smith's press conference after that game, because the reporter just asked him, Mike, what happened? And his response was, because Nuge scored that goal, we can laugh about it now. Right. So I'm like, you know, at this point, you have no choice. You have to brush it off. All right, let's talk about Tampa Bay, because that took place and I didn't see that. I mean, I had Tampa Bay winning that series because Vasilevsky is an absolute animal of a goaltender, but I didn't see them sweeping Florida. That was a huge shock to me.
Yeah, and again, you can't pin it on Florida's offense, who was rated number 1 in the league at over 4 goals a game during the regular season. Or you can blame it on, I would say you can't blame it on Bobrovsky is what I was trying to say. They only scored 3 goals in 4 games, Chris. 3 goals in 4 games. I mean, Vasilevsky was tested throughout game number 4 with over 45 shots, something like that, and got the shutout. And what his record is when it comes to shutdown games or deciding games or clinching games, Vasilevsky can't be beat. But here you have Tampa Bay, Chris, their number 1 point getter. Braden Point wasn't even playing. He wasn't even playing. And here they can throw out a line that has Belmar and Perry and Maroon on it. A lot of experience. That's your 4th line. Your 3rd line's full of energy, and you got a great top 6. I mean, they build it right always, Chris, and we've harped on this before about Tampa Bay. It's Tampa Bay versus the rest. If anybody can beat them, I'd like to see who.
If anyone's going to beat them, the only thought or hope I would think would be Colorado. But as far as what's happening in Florida has the season of a lifetime. Make the moves they make to bring in, guys like Ben Sherratt, Claude Giroux. I mean, are changes coming in Florida after this? This is not their first time they've collapsed.
Well, consider how their season started. Joel Quenneville was their coach. He's not their coach anymore. And that's a huge upheaval. And I remember you and I doing a show and watching how Florida adjusted to not having Quenneville there. And Andrew Burnett came in and seemed to be seamless, and they seemed to respond to him. There wasn't a whole lot. Their play didn't dip at all after Quenneville left. But that's a huge hole, Chris, to lose your head coach early in the season. I think there were only 30 or 35 games in when it happened. So what changes can they make? Well, they're going to have to try to copy the guys from across, the state, and build yourself a system that feeds you. And the word I heard the other day was they don't have a 1st-round pick for the next, I think, 3 years.
Right.
And maybe a 2nd-round pick after that. I'm not positive, but that's what I thought I read. So, they still have to build the way that Tampa's done it. I think that's the right way.
I don't want to talk about St. Louis, Colorado a whole lot, I do want to talk about the Rangers in Carolina because that series has been interesting for me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how it was going to go. And of course, Carolina jumped out to a 2-0 lead. And then some things kind of happened, behind the scenes that set Gerard Gallant into a bit of a tizzy. He said his guys would be ready. They brought in Ryan Reeves to make sure that everything was handled. Don't look now. The series is tied 2-2 and the Rangers won 2 in a row.
Yeah, you don't poke the bear. And you saw the fire in Gerard Gallant's eyes. And don't you think he took that into the dressing room and made sure everybody was perfectly clear how he felt about the way the Hurricanes late hit by Domi there? I think that really started it as the whistle went. But they have, I think, the Rangers have more character than Carolina does. Carolina has way more skill, but can tend to take it off, can take a day off or take a period off, and it's hurt them to have the series now tied at 2 games apiece. But what I find with the Rangers still a little young on the back end. I still think they need a little bit more seasoning back there, but they are giving Carolina the push, and it has been one of the entertaining series for me thus far.
I fully agree with you. That's the one I'm looking forward to. I'll be curious to see. Either way, I don't think either one of them can beat Tampa Bay, but hey, it is what it is. But it has been exciting. Jerry, I want to talk about Major League Baseball just a little bit because I get a time to shine here for a very rare moment. Red Sox have won now 6 in a row after the atrocious start they are firing off on. I was in Boston last weekend. First time I'd been there in 3 years. I try to get down there every, 3-4 times a year to get down and watch a couple games. But COVID hit, we closed the border. I couldn't make it down. Man, did it ever feel good to be back in Fenway. Story is just cracking the ball for the Red Sox right now. Like everything's just going well. They swept Seattle, I think all 4 games, went into Chicago, beat the White Sox by about, over 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
And, but either way, it's exciting. And I can tell you, Fenway is just as magical as it was as I remembered it 3 years ago.
They're 2.5 games back of the Jays. The Jays are just over 500, by the way, 3 games over 500, and have to go to LA to take on the Angels. The Angels, by the way, are having a great season. They're 27-17 and just a game behind Houston in the Western Division of the American League. But the Blue Jays concern me in this way, Chris, and the stat keeps coming up when you watch a Blue Jay game. They have the worst batting average with runners in scoring position. That is not a stat you want. The worst team in Major League Baseball with that stat scares me.
No, and it should, especially seeing how poised they were and how fired up everyone was for Blue Jay season. I mean, everyone had them pegged second potential overall World Series champions behind the LA Dodgers. I mean, it's almost time to start thinking panic. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Well, at least they have the pitching, so they're staying in the games. They're still above 500. Don't get me wrong. And eventually the Yankees are going to stumble a little bit. So I still have the faith. I'm keeping the faith.
You and me both. Well, Jerry, it's time to debate this. And we're going to go a little interesting this time because, you see it posted everywhere. You see them on pregame shows. You see it through commercials at this point. We're going with sports betting, my friend. Now that it's legal in Ontario, you seem to see it billboard, advertised, pushed everywhere in your face, whether you love it or you hate it. I want to get your take on it. Hit me with it first.
Well, everybody and their dog is endorsing one betting site or another, going all the way up to the great one. Wayne Gretzky's doing it.
No shocker there. Remember Operation Slapshot?
No, I don't. But, I'm not, it's betting I know has always gone on. I just never had it right in my face before. And I've never had, Hockey Night in Canada have a little segment about it in which the terminology, Chris, I do not understand. I mean, why don't they have a Peter Puck type of version of how this betting goes so I can understand it? Maybe I would get involved. But otherwise, it's annoying the heck out of me with how much I see it, especially since I watch a lot of sports. I'm going to see a lot of sports betting commercials and everybody and their dog that's endorsing it. I'm used to seeing betting as being a guy with a cigar at the side of his mouth and a smoky room and a chalkboard, and he's writing down scores, and it's about horse racing. This is a little bit different, I know, but I think it's way overboard.
Why am I not surprised that you have this take when it comes to old school mentality? I'm a huge fan. I think it's great. I love that it gives the fans just another reason to be more involved with the game. You're trying to grow the game, plus don't forget over the last 2 years, a lot of people have claimed that, businesses were hit financially, the COVID impact took place, a lot of things. So this is going to be a subsidy. Plus, don't forget, it's just been a matter of time before these governments wanted to get their take and a piece on the action, right? people are gambling anyway. People are going to make it happen. And the fact that athletes are endorsing it, I think it's amazing, because let's be real, don't kid yourself. Athletes themselves are gambling on a daily basis. So why shouldn't other governments get involved? And I mean, how long has sports betting been going on in places like Vegas, for example, Jerry? I mean, all those types of places where you see where the money is flowing. But to see, even GSP of the UFC, he's not even fighting anymore. And I think he's a representative like Bet365 or whatever those are now. But there's so many different ones out there. I love that they're embracing it. I think it's absolutely amazing. Younger fans coming into it. Prime example, I am not a NASCAR guy. Please don't shoot me. But I joined a NASCAR pool for the last couple of years just because it gave me a reason to gamble and get excited about it. Now, again, it's just with the boys, but it gave me a reason to be involved. I don't know, man. I think it's amazing. I wish they would have done it sooner. But overall, I mean, keep it up. Although I do agree with you, though, the commercials can cut back a little bit, because I'm tired of seeing the old betting commercials come in the middle of a hockey game constantly.
And Chris, my generation, which is a little bit older than yours, we need to be shown how to do this, and maybe we would enjoy it. I think it's the younger generation that's being hooked into it. And the intriguing part of me, as far as I understand, you can bet during a game about what the outcome might be after it's already started, which just blows my mind. I mean, again, I'm an old school type of bettor where I go to the local and do a pro line and bet on 3 games of the NFL. That was the extent of my gambling. But let me tell you this, I did enjoy it, and it certainly enhanced the game that I was watching if I had money on that game.
No, and I fully agree with you, Jerry. But overall, it's like I said, to me, I love it. Keep it up. Let's move on. It's time to wrap this thing up, Jerry, starting with the exciting finish that was the PGA Championship.
Well, yes, exciting finish in regards. I hate a positive or a negative happening on the final hole for the guy who was leading the tournament for 3 rounds, and he has a double bogey on the last round. I speak of Mito Pereira, who is from South America, Chile, I believe. Anyways, he had the lead and had a double bogey on 18. Justin Thomas, and I forget the other lad's name, go into a playoff, and Thomas eventually wins. What does annoy me about the whole thing is they said Thomas had this miraculous comeback, a 7-stroke comeback, where in fact it was Pereira that was +5 on the day. Thomas was -3, which was one of the best rounds. But I didn't think the golf was that good. I didn't think it was anybody was pulling away. I didn't see any tremendous putting going on. But Justin Thomas does win. And in regards to Shane Lowry, who our producer picked, he finished higher than anybody I picked. He was at +2. So we tip our hat to him. What about the Las Vegas Raiders, Chris? So they're back in the news again. Is a positive way?
All depends on how you look at it. For the first time, Colin Kaepernick has not thrown a professional football in a game since 2016. With everything that went on, there was a lot of speculation. Will he, wouldn't he, will he, wouldn't he? The NFL looked like they had tried to ban Colin Kaepernick from the league. Well, all that's come to an end to this point as far as a tryout. The Vegas Raiders have invited him to come on in. And don't forget, which is really interesting here, because yes, Derek Carr is their starting QB, ? But they also just traded with the Pats to bring in Jarrett Stidham as well as a backup QB, and now they're allowing Colin Kaepernick to come on in and try out. I'm excited. I think, he even claimed, if you go back a week or so ago, he said, look, I just want to be in the NFL. I'm willing to play a backup role and earn my way in there. Yeah. Well, Mark Davis was listening and said, hey, you know what? Let's bring him on in, see what he's got. Maybe he'll challenge Derek Carr a little bit and see what he can do. And I mean, if anything, you're going to push your backup QB who's going to want to make sure that he keeps his place. I mean, after all, they did just trade for him. So, at the end of the day, I'm not sure how it's all going to play out, but I think the NFL, it's exciting. It's a headline, and it's exactly what they want right now, because there's a lot of other headlines happening in the NFL right now that aren't so positive. Let's move on. Hit me with a Centennial Cup update.
Well, Centennial Cup is the Junior A Hockey Championship for Canada, and it's happening in Estevan, Saskatchewan. It wraps up this weekend. It looks like the Brooks Bandits are a team to beat. They're in the other division. It's a 10-team event with 5 teams in each division. The Summerside Western Capitals are there representing the Maritimes and the Maritime Hockey League, and they're doing very well. But the Brooks Bandits of the Alberta Junior Hockey League, they're 3-0. They've scored 25 goals in 3 games and allowed just 7. Meanwhile, Summerside, which is in the other division, has qualified for the quarterfinals with a thrilling victory over the Ottawa Junior Senators. They had to just get a point. So they got the point in the regulation, then won in overtime. So they're fully into the quarterfinals that get underway on Friday. We wish our best for the Summerside Western Capitals. How about the World Hockey Championships? Chris, we don't hear much about them. Will you update us?
Well, From the Canadian point of view, I can tell you right now, after a pretty successful round robin, Canada finished their round robin with a 7-1 win over France, which puts them in the quarterfinals up against Sweden. Now, the reason we haven't heard a whole lot about this is because usually these games are happening while we're sleeping, or they start, even during the workday. I saw a lot of the games going on, I think at like 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning on a weekday. But it's odd because I do agree with you. I think it's slipped by the wayside just a little bit because we don't get to see it in prime time or prime action because the NHL playoffs are on. But yes, Canada is moving into the quarterfinals to take on Sweden. That'll be the next matchup. It should be a tough matchup for them, but at the end of the day, I saw a great interview with Drake Batherson who said it's going to be a good challenge for them to see how they can pull it together. I don't know. I'll be curious, but I'm going to, you keep your ear to the ground and kind of keep watching it out. Give me an update on men's senior baseball, Jerry. I know it finally that the season's now in effect. Have you gotten out to check a game yet?
No, not yet. Chatham hasn't played at home yet, but they're underway. Started the long weekend in May, which is they usually do, and it's reunited, and it feels so good. And what that means is, Chris, the Chatham Senior Ironmen are back in the fold, and as are the Fredericton Royals, being led by, I would guess, New Brunswick Senior Baseball Hall of Famer Derek Wilson is leading the attack as the manager of the Fredericton Royals this year. He seems to have a younger squad there, so that'll be interesting because they took a leave of absence as well. St. John looks strong. Moncton and Charlottetown's the defending champions. They all got underway. Fredericton hasn't played yet. They play later on this week to get their season underway. But it's good to have baseball back, and it's good to have all 5 teams in the New Brunswick Senior Baseball League back. Very enjoyable if you can get out and see them. What's going on with the Cape Breton Screaming Eagles? Correct myself, Chris. The Cape Breton Eagles. They had some good news this week.
Absolutely, and I don't blame you at all. I've done it many times on air because they've always been the Screaming Eagles. I get it. But yes, good news coming out of Cape Breton. After the tough season that was, they did win the draft lottery. They did have the best odds. They had 9 balls, 43% chance of winning. The draft lottery came on out. We got Cape Breton picking first, Victoriaville picking second, Chicoutimi picking third, Baie-Comeau picking fourth, and Baie-Comeau picking fifth from a trade from Val-d'Or as well. So, every time these Q drafts get involved, it's great to see, from a lottery perspective, how it all works out. I won't get into the lottery debate because I don't love them, although the Habs won theirs, Cape Breton won theirs.
There we go.
Things are starting to play out the way they're supposed to be. Not a lottery fan, but good. This is exactly what teams who had tough seasons go through to get their shot at the best player to increase their odds of moving forward. Congratulations goes out to the Cape Breton Eagles. I know it was a tough season for you, but overall, you came away with the first overall pick. Well, Jerry, that's going to wrap it up for us tonight. I hope you guys have had a great time enjoying the show. We've loved doing it for you. Stick around. See you next Thursday.